And we're back on Grand Slam Sports. My name's Jay Saj, alongside me,
Charles Foster.
And I'm Jackson Strasburger.
And guys, we're going to get right into the NFL. The conference championships just passed. The Bills, Chiefs, the best of the two. And the question that everyone is posing is, were the refs the problem?
I mean, they're definitely going to always be that kind of call whenever you play against a game in the Chiefs. Even if the Chiefs beat someone by 30, the refs will always be a part of that conversation. I do believe that there were a few calls that can be interchangeable, but I also believe that all of those were football calls and 50-50. I do not believe that the refs are the reason why the Bills lost that game.
I 100% agree. The refs were not the deal breaker in that game. It was just went down to who played better, and the Chiefs played better. We saw that catch that was called a catch that I believe was a catch, and then the first down that's just a hard call for anybody to make and can go either way.
I mean, you look at that first down, it was so close. It was right there. You look at all the replays, the line being drawn right at that first down marker. Do you guys believe he got that, or do you believe that was an overturnable call?
Here's what I'm going to say. I do believe that he got it. However, whenever you make a call, right, and you do replay review, it has to be enough evidence to overturn the call. And since they originally called him down, I do not believe that there was enough evidence for them to reverse that call. I do not believe that the refs made a bad decision there. Unfortunately, I am a Chiefs hater and I will be cheering for the Eagles, but I can't sit there and say that this was the refs.
I'm the same way. I feel like that's a call. There's extra technology we have, and it should not be a ref that's however far away at the sideline making a call with a bunch of 22 NFL players, large humans in a big pile.
Very large humans.
Not able to see where the ball is.
Yeah. And see, I'm in agreement too. I think whatever was called on the field was going to stand, because I don't see any way you can overturn that kind of call. It was way too close. There's too many big bodies in there. Like Jackson said, 22 football players, one of the largest dudes on earth. You're not going to be able to see where the football is full in full spec that time. So unfortunately, I don't think the rest of the problem. I think it was more of a 50-50 call that they had to make. And unfortunately, with the Chiefs' way, that's how things have tended to go, but that's how things ended up, and they are
What are you going to do?
the Super Bowl. But we look at the head coaching vacancies being filled in the NFL. And Charles, your Jets, they got their man, the Lions of DC, Aaron Glenn, heading to your squad.
I mean, yeah, the Jets have been making all the moves that count. Completely revamped coaching structure. We now have Aaron Glenn bringing it in, a new GM from the Broncos. We are just, I remember correctly, we're looking at currently hiring an offensive coordinator, and we did just bring in a defensive coordinator as well. Forgot what team he came from. But he's a 49ers defensive coordinator, but took last year off. So we have built a new coaching staff, and that's going to be one of the biggest things bringing the Jets back will be coaching staff. Now the next thing on the bucket list is, what's the future for the quarterback? And Aaron Glenn, he's already kind of been 50-50 on if he wants Aaron Rodgers to be back.
And Jackson, to get your opinion on this one, is it good to hire for the Jets?
Absolutely. Aaron Glenn has proven what he can do as a defensive coordinator and one of the best defenses in the league when healthy back-to-back years. And he can definitely help this Jets team, which has a strong defense, just hasn't shown up and hasn't been the team they want to be.
See, I'm not sure if it was a head coaching problem with Robert Saleh or if it was a front office and ownership problem. I guess we'll see with Aaron Glenn, because, I think we're all very high on what this guy can do as a head coach in the NFL. It's just to be seen if it's him or if it's the front office if things do go downhill with the Jets organization.
The reason I'm so big on Aaron Glenn compared to some of the other coaching candidates is because he is a Jet. He wanted to be a Jet. He was not one of those people of, oh, blah, 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 I have only one head coaching job and the Jets just happen to be open. He has been wanting to be a Jet ever since he retired. So Aaron Glenn, he bleeds the culture, a culture that used to be something. And I think if anyone's going to bring us out of the mud and the curse that is the New York Jets, Aaron Glenn will be the one to do that.
From New York to New Orleans, Jackson, a Saints fan. They haven't hired a head coach yet. The last vacancy to be filled. What's your thoughts behind who they might get and why it's taken so long?
Well, it's been reported that they are the worst candidacy for any head coach, with one of the worst salary caps, not really a good starting quarterback, and a front office that honestly nobody wants to go work under. But I do believe we'll get the Eagles OC after the Super Bowl. That's what's kind of taking so long, as we've been going after these coordinators who are still playing game. We went after Joe Brady, and then he eventually decided he wanted to step out, a former Saints coordinator, and now going after the Eagles coordinators.
Charles, so Kellen Moore is the guy being rumored to be the next Saints head coach. What's your thoughts behind that, and is he the right guy to lead New Orleans?
Is Kellen Moore the best option on the table? Yes. Is Kellen Moore a good option overall? I don't think so. I think one of the biggest issues with the Eagles coming into this year was their offense. I mean, there was calls for Sirianni being fired. There were calls for Kellen Moore being fired. And now everyone just forgets about that because they have one of the best teams, with Saquon Barkley and yada, yada, yada. But I don't believe that Kellen Moore is truly going to be a great coach, because I think that the pieces that he has is the reason why he does so good. I think whenever you go to the Saints, where they have no money, very few pieces, no true quarterback, they're going to really prove very quickly that this team that Kellen Moore's not the guy.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that the Saints probably were the worst candidacy available, and it's seen why it's taken so long to get a head coach on their squad. But now we return a segment from our previous shows, the Rookie Report. And Charles, you have the only NBA player today, and we got Kel'el Ware.
We got Kel'el Ware. I've been a fan of him in his college days, before IU as well, back with the Oregon Ducks. He was an absolute dog. Coming in now for the Heat, he's been a great backup. This is his stats within the past week. 16 points per game, 8.7 rebounds, and a block. He has been a fantastic piece for a Heat team that, let's be honest, is pretty broken in a lot of places. Yeah. So for him and what he's done for the Heat, I do believe that he's going to be one of those steals from this draft class that, let's be honest, has been pretty weak. And
you see, I was very high on this guy. I mean, I'm an IU fan. I knew what he could do in college. In that 1 year that he played with the Hoosiers, he was very, very good. Mm-hmm. So the Heat getting him, absolute steal. This is a guy that they needed, especially with, the whole Jimmy Butler drama going on.
And great backup for Bam. I mean, they no longer need to worry about in those playoff games, other than, now, whenever that backup center comes in, they're not cooked.
Yeah. We'll look into the NFL now, and probably the best rookie left into the Super Bowl, that is Quinion Mitchell. This is my rookie. He had his second career interception against Washington. His only two career interceptions have both been in the playoffs, and this guy only allowed one touchdown all year long. That was his first touchdown allowed since 2022. This guy has been a lockdown corner since his days at Toledo, and now with the Eagles. Phenomenal ball player.
And I mean, he has been the definition to me of what we thought Sauce Gardner. I do think Sauce Gardner, he's been great, but obviously similar college career where, absolute lockdown. Sauce was that way at Cincinnati as well. And he's come in, he's done it. He's continued to do it at the big league, and he's been great.
The other rookie in the Super Bowl is Jackson's rookie. Who you got, Jackson?
I picked Xavier Worthy, the Chief rookie. He's just stepped up and kind of took this speedy role that Tyreek Hill was. The Chiefs needed somebody like that. They got their guy. Bills kind of gave him up, and the Chiefs are not going to complain. Definitely taking every advantage they can.
I mean, yeah, Xavier Worthy, he fit the Legion of Zoom that they've been trying to build over there in Kansas City, and he is a great RPO option as well as a deep threat for Mahomes. He can do everything that Mahomes needs sometimes. He's a safety blanket as well as a playmaker. He's been a great pickup for the Chiefs.
We'll look into the Super Bowl next week, but we'll leave it at that for now. Heading into the baseball segment next, myself and Charles Foster and Jackson Strasburger. Heading into baseball, free agency about passed. Still a few players on the market, but you see the same team signing the same guys, and that poses the question, does the MLB need an NFL-type salary cap?
I think the argument can be made. I think there does need to be an argument made, or at least something to, kind of look at, because this is a Dodgers team. And I think the Dodgers, obviously, they're the main focus of this debate. 3 MVPs last year, World Series champions. And then they go and sign half, pretty much, of the Japanese national team that won the World Baseball Classic as well. So you have every single champion in every single event and all their best players on one team. LA is the biggest market. LA has the most money, and half their contract are deferred to the future. And that, to me, is the issue that lies. Is if we're not going to have a salary cap, you cannot pay your players in 2035 all their money. That's not fair, to me.
I completely disagree right there. I think there needs to be a salary floor. We can't have teams like Miami and Oakland not spending any money in off-season, and that's why they suck. The owners have similar amount of money. It's not the difference between the owners and money, and the Dodgers just decide to spend it, want to win now, and they're going to have to pay for that in the future. Just like we saw the Rams do in the NFL when they went for Matthew Stafford, they won now, and now they're kind of paying for it without some draft picks.
Yeah, but see, the NFL is different. I think what makes the NFL so successful is that every team has a chance at any given moment. And the salary cap is what makes that happen, because teams just can't go out and spend $1 billion in an offseason like the Dodgers can, because they are the biggest market. I mean, the biggest market definitely pulls players in, but having the money in the MLB like they do without a salary cap, it just changes everything.
I think I'm more of a fan of more of an NBA style salary cap where it is based off the market, and bigger NBA teams do get more money. That's no secret. But it does allow there to still be a kind of a little bit of a mix, because the issue is, and it does lie, of the Chiefs, it's like in football, are the biggest team of the past 5-10 years, and they're Kansas City. The market doesn't matter; it's their talent. And I think that right there is kind of one of the things that like shows that yes, we see all these small baseball teams, but I do agree with the salary floor. Some of these owners, they don't want to spend the money; they're just cool with owning a team, and it has been a problem in this league for a while.
Let's take a look into our respective teams as the offseason has gone on. Charles, the Blue Jays, where do they stand?
Obviously, right now, currently number one in the talks outside of the Mets for Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso has been one of the biggest pieces that they have been looking for, trying to move him to first base or DH and have Vladdy play the opposite. And that's really been something they've been looking at, as well as a Mad Max Scherzer signing last night, $15 million for a single year of the 40-year-old Max Scherzer. Interesting signing. I don't hate it, though, because it's a team that struggled with injuries and pitching last year, and having a 40-year-old pitcher that can put up numbers, can play good, is something that, like, he's kind of in your back pocket. Toronto is the third biggest market in all of baseball, and they've spent like no money. So at this point, might as well spend some money on a player that you think could do something.
I think you've gotten to the point where you have money to spend and you just don't know where to put it anymore, so you're just giving it to players. Yeah. I mean, you had the money to spend, you weren't able to make that huge splash yet. If you can get Pete Alonso, obviously that will help significantly, but it just hasn't panned out so far.
And the biggest issue with the Blue Jays, and one of the issues that we've seen, is they have one of the highest luxury tax in the province of Toronto and Ontario. So the issue is, you know, you got to pay players more because their money is getting taken from them because of those Toronto taxes. So that's another reason why Scherzer is getting paid so much there.
But even paying Scherzer, he is 40 years old. He only pitched in 9 games last year with an barely under a 4 ERA. He did not have a good year last year. Paying him over what Verlander was paid with the Giants, he was paid $15 million, giving him $500,000 more, just doesn't make sense to me.
And I think what time will tell, obviously. I like the signing just to kind of buff up a pitching scheme that kind of was struggling last year, but we also obviously still have some youth there, as well as signing Anthony Santander, one of my biggest free agency grabs I've wanted. Santander, a massive signing for the Blue Jays as well. We're going to see what the Blue Jays are looking at for the rest of this offseason, though. But
you know who runs the AL East? My Yankees.
The Red Sox soon.
Whoa. No. I believe that they can still run the East. Obviously, Juan Soto going to the Mets, that significantly hurt my soul. I think it hurt every Yankees fan's soul, because, I mean, going to one of your biggest rivals across town, that just hurts. But they made up for it. They traded for Cody Bellinger. They got a new closer in Devin Williams from Milwaukee. And they made signings to fill the gap. I mean, obviously you can't fill a gap that Juan Soto has left. But all you can do is kind of just put some players in and hope that they can make up for the lost Soto and what he can produce for a team. Obviously, you still keep Aaron Judge. You still keep the core of the team around Aaron Judge. I still think the Yankees can make a run at the World Series next year.
I think that the Yankees window might have just closed like rapidly, and because they did not pick up a lot. They lost a lot of their depth. I mean, just like they lost a few of their bullpen arms. Now, they did, of course, get Max Fried, which is a massive signing as well, and Goldschmidt, who's going to be a solid first baseman for this team. I think that their window, they are a worse team than last year, but they also are better in some other ways too. So it's going to be very confusing, and I think that the biggest thing about this Yankees team is you cannot tell what they're going to be on paper. It is going to be purely based off the product that they put on the field on how good they're going to be.
And it really is, can Aaron Judge keep producing the way he keeps producing in regular seasons?
And can he actually do decent in the playoffs?
Yeah, that's a problem I don't want to talk about. But yes, if Judge can produce the way he can, I believe the Yankees are still the best built team in the AL East. Obviously, the Orioles are pretty solid, but...
He looks to disagree. What do we think of Jackson?
I disagree with a lot of that.
Okay.
I do not think Devin Williams is who he was anymore. I think he fell off at the end of last year. I think the same way with Paul Goldschmidt. He's declining. He's getting up in age. And even with some of the signing, I do like Max Fried. I do like Cody Bellinger. That doesn't fix this team. And the Blue Jays and the Orioles have done way more in developing talent and signing better players.
And Boston.
I trust them to beat the Yankees this year.
You'll see when the Yankees win the AL East again that y'all were wrong, but it's okay. Jackson, your Cardinals, they've been in a rut the last few years. What's going on with St. Louis, and what are they doing?
Nothing, actually. They said they were going to trade Nolan Arenado by Christmas. If you don't know, it's past Christmas, and he is yet to go anywhere. He has a no-trade option, which he said he would not use with the Dodgers or Boston or some other teams like that need a third baseman, but just haven't been able to find the deal. And it seems that he might be sticking around in St. Louis at this point.
Yeah. Arenado and the Cardinals, I mean, he's just one of the many list of problems. I mean, if I could list the problems of the Cardinals right now, I would need a scroll. And the issue with the Cardinals has really been every single pitcher that they have is like above the age of 35, except for some of the ones they're calling up. I know you're a big Tink Hence fan. I know they have a lot of potential in that AAA. But right now, this team is going to rot at the bottom of the NL Central. But there are some positivities there. There is the Mason Wynn, who had a pretty solid season last year. And I think that this team does have potential. People want to be a Cardinal. People want to play in St. Louis. This team will be back very soon, just not this year.
I agree with that. Mason Wynn is eligible for a top 2020 season this year. He was very close last year. We have Victor Scott, who's proven stuff.
He's fast.
Quinn Matthews. And then you also, again, like how you said, Tink Hence. This pitching staff is getting younger, getting stronger. It's just going to take a few years.
Guys, the Jimmy Butler saga continues. We'll get into that next with some NBA talk, myself and Charles Foster. Jimmy Butler is crazy. Let's just say that. This guy, I mean, just look at him. Just look at him. Just look at this guy. This is the average Jimmy Butler day right here. Average Jimmy Butler. And this guy is trying to force his way out of Miami, Charles. I mean, can he do it? Because, I mean, at this point, Miami is like holding him hostage.
I mean, yeah. Jimmy Butler needs to be freed. I think that Jimmy Butler, and I will say this now, and this is going to be a little bit of an upsetting thing towards the Heat. Jimmy Butler, yes, he has been a part of the problem in just about every single place that he has left. However, Jimmy Butler has done too much for a Heat team that overachieved for 4 to 5 years to be suspended multiple times because you guys cannot find a suitor for him. The Suns are begging you to give him, and Pat Riley won't make the move. I don't like the way that they're treating Jimmy Butler. Yes, he has not been happy. Yes, he has been very obvious about not being happy, but he is the reason that the Heat have been relevant the past 4 or 5 years. I don't like the way that they've been handling this.
I think it's kind of both parties that are handling this bad. I mean, you watch some of Butler's games back, and he's just not putting any effort out on the Heat right now. He's not trying, and that is technically a detriment to his franchise. And so I get why the Heat and Pat Riley, you know, the way he is, I get why they've suspended him. Obviously, he's done a lot, like you said. I mean, they were an 8 seed that one year, and they made the NBA Finals. That was an insane overachievement year. But this guy is a great basketball player, and he can turn it on when it matters most. Obviously, he has to get out of there. At this point, Miami and Butler is not going to work out anymore. That's been shown. And I think we both think Phoenix, that the Suns are the best move. But
Suns are in my opinion, the best move and the only move. I know that people, I think the biggest issue for them is why would we take on Bradley Beal's contract? Mm-hmm. And I don't think Bradley Beal will find himself in a Miami Heat jersey. I do believe that it will be a 3-team to 4-team trade, and Bradley Beal will find himself in a Milwaukee
That's
jersey.
What I was, yep.
I do believe that Bradley Beal to Milwaukee, they have the money, they need the scoring.
It makes sense.
It makes sense. I just think that they just need to get it done because Milwaukee, mediocre. The Suns, mediocre. The Heat, kind of suck. So it's just a bunch of teams right now that are underachieving because they won't make the move. Make the move. You do not need to wait till the trade deadline. Just make the move.
Well, the question is, can Jimmy Butler escape the prison that is the Miami Heat? That remains to be seen. But a guy who probably can escape his franchise maybe is De'Aaron Fox. And it's not really escape. This guy has done a lot for Sacramento. But the Kings are kind of dysfunctional right now. They don't really have a direction. And De'Aaron Fox being, basically in his prime right now, he needs to find a spot where he can win now.
I hate the Kings. I'm going to say this right now. I hate the Kings. The Kings have done their absolute best sabotage job they could ever do. There is so much talent down there in Sacktown. You have De'Aaron Fox. You have one of the best centers in the league in DeMontis Sabonis. Mm-hmm. DeMar DeRozan's fine. But then you have a bunch of talent on this roster. This is a playoff team that is a few steps away from being a contender. Yet you fire your coach midseason because of things that are out of his control. Then you're pushing De'Aaron Fox out right now, where he's going to go to a team like the Spurs, or like as we're talking about with the Spurs, or another team like that, and he is going to flourish.
Yep.
And they're going to realize that the talent in Sacramento, this is the best team that they've had in 2 decades. And the only time that their fans are actually happy, and they're just going to throw it all away because they're slightly underachieving this year.
See, just when we think the Kings have figured everything out, that they go back to being the Sacramento Kings. It really is just like a loop that the Kings have been in for their entire franchise's history. And, I mean, De'Aaron Fox, this guy is one of the best players in the NBA, in my opinion. This guy's super underrated for what he has done in Sacramento, and he needs to find himself in a spot that will actually treat him with what he deserves. Because Sacramento has it. I mean, Sacramento attempted to build around him. DeMar DeRozan, I mean, he's kind of aging now. He's not what he used to be. Sabonis obviously is great, but the team, fit-wise, just doesn't make sense.
It is a bunch of players that just don't fit well. And you can see that in the NBA of it doesn't matter how much talent you have if the team doesn't mesh. And they're under a new coach. A lot of the team respect their last one. I just think that this team is throwing away what could be so much potential. Sabonis won't stay for very long, and he's going to go to a top contender.
Yes.
And if Fox goes to San Antonio, they're going to break the internet. I mean, Fox, Stephon Castle, current Rookie of the Year favorite, and Victor Wembanyama, one of the most impressive centers we've ever seen step foot on the court.
Yeah.
This Spurs team, under Greg Popovich, could go right back to where they used to be a few years ago if they can get De'Aaron Fox. Make the move. It's very simple here.
And the Spurs have the draft capital to give to Sacramento.
And the youth. The Spurs have everything you could ever imagine.
Exactly. The Spurs are in a great spot right now. If they can land De'Aaron Fox, expect them to be maybe a play-in team this season. But next year, they're going to be a top contender if they get De'Aaron Fox.
If they were in the East, they'd be top 3. So, I mean,
the East is just soft. That's just how it is.
But
Speaking of the East and the West, the All-Star starters and reserves have been announced, and we want to look at some of the snubs. It happens every year, obviously. Only so many players can get in the All-Star game. But, Charles, me and you both think some players deserve to get in a little bit more than the players that are being shown on the screen here.
As we're looking at this list here, the first thing I'm going to ask Jace is please step off my tail. Thank you very much. As we're looking at the thing over here on the screen, we look at the West and the East. These teams, I like it. I don't hate the way that this lineup looks. But as we look at the West, there are a few glaring discrepancies that I have. First one is Jalen Williams. J-Dub has been great for a winning team. However, I do believe that the better player this season at his position, despite his team winning less, has been Norman Powell. Norman Powell is averaging 24 points a game. He has been completely overachieving. He's been playing almost better than his teammate in James Harden, and he has more points per game, assists, and almost more rebounds than J-Dub. I do believe that he should be on there over him.
That's what I was getting ready to say. I think Norman Powell has played better than James Harden and maybe deserves it over James Harden. But I want to move to the Eastern side of things. The East is very guard heavy. They have a lot of really good point guards and shooting guards. And I believe both LaMelo Ball and Trae Young could have deserved to get in. I believe Ball a little bit more over Young. Okay. Ball's had a great year for Charlotte. I mean, obviously his team has not succeeded the way that they can, but LaMelo Ball has been one of the best players in the NBA this year. And you look at a guy Tyler Hero has been good, but I don't think he's better than LaMelo Ball. Same with even Damian Lillard. I mean, Lillard is on the Bucks now. He hasn't performed like he did in Portland. I believe that both of these two guys could be out for guys like LaMelo and like Trae Young.
I'm going to sit here and I'm going to say Tyler Hero does deserve to be an all-star. I do believe that he has had a very good season, 24 points a game. He is leading a Miami team that is very dysfunctional to a 500 record right now. I do not believe that Damian should find his spot on here. Most of his production has been purely because he shoots like 30 shots a game, and that has been the problem for me. LaMelo Ball should find his way on this roster no matter what. The first ever player since 2016, whenever fan voting was introduced, to not make it despite being number 1 in fan votes on all Eastern Conference guards.
That's insane.
If we're going to talk about Trae Young as well, Trae Young has a case. He averages a double-double. The only reason I do believe that he is not on here is because his team sucks, and I do think that he's not doing enough on a crappy team to make himself on this roster. I do not like Trae Young as an all-star this year. I know people are going to fight me on that. I do believe that Tyler Hero deserves it just a little bit more for what he's done for his team, but LaMelo Ball should be in there over Dame. As we look over at the Western Conference, I got one more gripe I have. Jaren Jackson Jr., he's been playing solid. But I do believe that this is Domantas Sabonis' spot.
I agree.
I think Domantas Sabonis has been significantly better. I think that he has been one of the best centers in the league for years running. And I do believe that if the Kings were winning more and not currently dysfunctional, he would find his way on this roster. But other than that, I am pretty happy with the way that the rest of this roster goes. Congratulations to Pascal, your pacer, on being an all-star. And of course, we got some first-timers here as we're going to look at some of these. Victor Wembanyama, first-timer. He's great. J-Dub, deserving. Maybe not over some others, but he deserves to be an all-star. And Alperen Sengun, one of my favorite all-stars of this year. Big fan of him, first-time all-star. And the Rockets, second seed in the West.
Yeah.
He's definitely been a reason of that.
Real quick, before we close the segment out, trade deadline coming up in about a week's time. Any moves that you want your team to make?
I mean, if we're looking at the Celtics, I think the Celtics kind of need to keep it put. I think the Celtics have a lot of issues, and I think that I mean, not a lot of issues, but I think the only issue that does concern me is the Peyton Pritchard in the playoffs. Peyton Pritchard's stock is currently the highest it's ever been because he's actually playing like a Sixth Man of the Year. The second that we go into a 7-game series, his 6'1" baby self will be targeted, and it will be a problem.
The Pacers, only thing they could do maybe is trade Obi Toppin for a pick or a younger player. Other than that, the Pacers, I think, are built where they need to be to compete in the Eastern Conference. Should be a great rest of the season for both the Pacers and the Celtics. But for the first time in Grand Slam sports history, we have NHL next with Charles and Jackson.
Soccer has been kicked off and going right back in its place. NHL, we're back here, and we're going to be talking about hockey for the first time. Jackson's back on with me, and we're going to be talking about our favorite teams for a little bit, just kind of set the precedent of what we will be doing here on NHL. We're going to talk first about the Leafs. The Toronto Maple Leafs have had a pretty okay season, currently 30-19, but these past few weeks have not been amazing for the Leafs. Jackson, what have you been seeing with them?
They've just been playing well, way better than expected, I kind of think. They've kind of been this team that's been making the first round of the playoffs and then getting kicked straight out. This year, they've kind of made a chance that they can maybe make a run in the playoffs, kind of shown some promise and some young stars, and it's interesting to see.
I think the biggest thing with the Leafs and the biggest issue that they're currently falling under is injuries. Currently, as of right now, there was a study done that based on the millions of dollars that are paid to their players and games missed, they are currently missing the most amount of money there on the court per game. I mean, they missed Austin Matthews for 15 games. They currently do not have Tavares. Their entire front five has been injured for the majority of this season, and that has been the issue. Austin Matthews now back, and now, of course, Tavares is still out. And you've had Nylander, he's played pretty good. But this is a Leafs team that is currently trying to find its groove again, and with the trade deadline coming up, some moves may need to be made to make this team actually the contender that they hope to be.
Absolutely, and trying to find those moves, trying to find those pieces that just kind of fit perfectly with this Leafs team. This Leafs team has kind of played together, like the front five, like you mentioned, not playing a lot, but they've played together. Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, John Tavares, those three, like that's your main line. You've had that for good years, that kind of chemistry they've built, and if they can get on the ice together, they can be definitely dangerous.
I think the biggest thing is ice time. Can they stay on the ice together? On top of that is what kind of moves are they going to make? Since the puck dropped during the preseason, this team has severely needed a secondary center, especially with Tavares not able to stay on the ice as much as wanted. On top of that, Riley has been struggling. The defense has been struggling significantly this season. I think one of my biggest needs for the trade deadline is for the Leafs to try and find a right-hander on the defensive end to go opposite side of Riley. I think it would be very helpful for this team. On top of that is how can they figure out a way to stay healthy and continue their scoring, because their scoring right now has been the lowest it has been since Austin Matthews was a Maple Leaf. And that's been the issue, is how can this team stay on the ice and put up good scoring production. But as we look at a team that has also dropped in production since their glory days of 2019, the Blues. How are we feeling about the Blues on this season?
Started off with some negative thoughts and then a firing of the head coach Craig Berube, hiring Jim Montgomery from the Bruins, and he's been fantastic. Just this more aggressive kind of player, or coach, excuse me, who's trying to get the players a little more aggressive. Getting rid of Brandon Saad recently to trying to find the right kind of step in that defensive front, as you mentioned with your Maple Leafs, but they've kind of just found this difference. He's more of an aggressive coach in practice, makes them run, makes them skate more, makes them get that cardio, and he brings kind of different energy than we're used to from seeing a longtime Blue head coach in Craig Berube, known as the Chief. It was sad to see him go, but everybody kind of knew something needed to change, and something needed to change quickly.
And looking at Saad, of course, one of those pieces from the 2019 Stanley Cup, now no longer on the team, has actually been linked to the Maple Leafs, which would be pretty funny if our team swapped. But as we look at it, you know, obviously trade deadline coming up, I know that the Maple Leafs will be buyers, but we're looking at the Blues. They're currently kind of in the middle right now, currently at 500, or a game below 500 with a game tonight. Do you believe that they would be sellers at the deadline, or do you think that they might try and buy?
With a new head coach, I think they could try to buy more, try to get this new team that they have. They have the key pieces in Robert Thomas and Jordan Kyrou that can definitely make a push in the playoffs. And even in 2019, when they won the Stanley Cup, they were a lower team at one point around this January, February mark. And then they got into this kind of new coaching, a different kind of coaching way. A fight even happened at practice, and now practice they've been skating for multiple hours, just up and down lines, like the scene from Miracle, where they just get them skating down and backs until they finally can play together like a team.
Yeah, I do believe that the Blues have been the definition of underdogs. I mean, they have, like you said, a lower team whenever they won that Stanley Cup, and then they've kind of continued to go into obscurity. 2019 was a weird year. It was just in the water. Obviously, that was the year the Nationals won the World Series as well. So, I mean, and the year that the Toronto Raptors won the NBA Finals. So, I mean, it's been a weird time, but the Blues looking to get back to relevance, looking to get back where they are. I think that they have a solid front, like you said, with Robert Thomas. He has been very good for them these past few years. So I think that this team does have a chance to make it back, but they're going to need to figure some things out, and I think that the new coaching staff will be really helpful for them. That's going to be all here on Grand Slam Sports. Have a good night.